Hey, everybody. I'm Rebecca Pepin. I'm joined by Julie R. Cantor. She's an attorney in Kingsport, and she is also a former Sullivan County Assistant District Attorney General. And so she has more than 20 years of experience in a courtroom. She's joining us now to talk a little bit about the Megan Boswell trial. I just want to point out that she has nothing to do with this case. She's not been investigating in this case or been involved in any way, shape, or form. She is just here to provide legal analysis for us. What we do know is the trial is in recess currently. They are supposed to be back at 1:15, so we're going to get you back into the stream so you can listen in court if you are interested. But in the meantime, I want to talk a little bit to Julie about what have you heard so far? Is there anything that has surprised you or anything that stands out?
Of course, I think anytime you have a child death, it's highly emotional. And of course, jury questionnaires do, I think, help streamline the process. I was still somewhat surprised that a jury was seated as quickly as it was, given that the case has been pending so long and it's been in the limelight.
Such a high profile
It
case.
has
How
been.
can you in this area find an impartial jury? What kind of questions are you asking jurors and making sure, yeah, I feel comfortable, I'm not going to strike this juror?
Well, and that's just it. I mean, you said it yourself, fair and impartial. That's the standard to find jurors to be qualified to sit on the panel who will ultimately determine guilt versus not guilty. And you want to just have, as a lawyer, voir dire is a time to seek the truth, find the truth, and it's your only chance to have a one-on-one talk with the jurors. There are no wrong answers, no right answers. You just want honesty, and you want that juror who can be fair and impartial and come to the table with no preconceived notions.
Talk to me a little bit about how you are an impartial juror, even if you agreed initially, I'm going to be impartial in this case. Well, we heard this morning some very emotional testimony. Megan Boswell herself was crying. I don't know if it's an act. We haven't seen her cry thus far, but she has been very emotional in appearance so far in this trial. I could hear her as we were listening to the TBI agent, was it Fraley on the
Yes,
stand?
Special Agent Fraley.
I could hear her whimpering behind the camera, and at one point the camera did pan over, and we did see, yes, indeed, she is crying. So we see that, and we also have heard testimony about a purple onesie with penguins on it, maybe being open. Okay, you picture a little baby in a onesie. The first thing I want to do is cuddle it, but now we're talking about a body of a little baby. How does one remain impartial, and how deep and in the weeds is this trial going to get as far as ripping people's hearts out?
I don't think it's an easy trial. I think this jury panel has a very tough job. But I do think, in my experience from what I've seen, I think every juror takes the oath that they take seriously. They want to follow the judge's instructions, have the judge educate them on the law, and most of your average jurors want to do the right thing. And if the judge is very clear that you have to be fair and impartial, I'll give you jury instructions that explain everything. I think the average juror takes that oath very seriously.
So we heard the opening statements. Did you think that both sides did a good job, and what did you observe?
I did. I think the prosecution set the stage. Of course, in any criminal prosecution, the criminal defendant does not have to testify. You have an absolute right to remain silent. But I think they began laying the groundwork. So the jury is already getting a glimpse that if the defendant, Ms. Boswell, does testify, she may have some credibility issues. Her philosophy for this investigation seemed to be, well, I'll tell the truth. The lies are working just fine. And I think that was a key point to make in case she does testify. I also thought that.
Now, the defense attorney, I just want to interject here, he objected to the word lie.
Yes.
So he, and then Fraley backed up and said, okay, if I can't say lie, then let me tell you that there were discrepancies in her testimony, which means something was
Right.
not the truth.
And very semantically, lie is a strong word.
Yes.
The prosecution did not use that word in their opening statement, but I think the same meaning came through in
Implied,
terms
absolutely.
of all the different stories, all the different things that were falsehoods.
Right. It's easy to
And
take away from that
yes.
something is not true.
Yes.
Whether it's a blatant lie or not, confusion,
Right.
that's, I guess, for the jury to sort out and the prosecution to really lay that out.
And even though opening statements aren't evidence, I think General Massengill painted a very clear picture with her words as to what this case is about, what this child is alleged to have gone through, what the evidence the prosecution has will show that this little girl went through. But then on the flip side of that, I think the defense made every attempt to humanize Miss Boswell in her age. She was 18 at the time the crime was alleged to have been committed. And I think also, as her attorney pointed out, you don't know what you will do until you're in that person's shoes. So I think he made every effort possible to humanize his client, to attempt to get the jury to see her not just as labeled as a criminal defendant, but to see her as a human, a person. And it's clear, obviously, it's the state's job to prove every element beyond a reasonable doubt.
The prosecution wasted no time in showing Evelyn's little body. That was intentional.
I would think so. It's the strongest part of the case. It's something you don't forget. There are some things we see in life that are so memorable, whether it's good or bad, you don't ever erase them from your mind. And I suspect that that was why they did it that way.
Talk a little bit about how this case moves forward. So today we've had opening arguments. We've heard from a couple of witnesses. Was it one witness? Two?
Special Agent Fraley was the first witness.
Yeah.
And it's hard to really calculate how many witnesses will be called because
Scheduled for
Right.
35, but talk to
Right.
us a little bit about that. Just because you scheduled 35 witnesses
Right.
does not mean we're going to hear from every single witness. What would discount? We may have to wrap this up soon. Daniel, can you hear me? Are they back in session? I want to make sure I get people back into the courtroom if it comes back up. All right, just until he gets in here, if you want to just answer this question. So talk to us a little bit about what would disqualify a witness or what would lead them to say, we don't need you anymore, kind of thing.
Well, I think before any criminal jury trial starts, the prosecution has a clear idea of who they're going to call.
Are we back in court? All right. So we are going to hear much more from Julie Cantor as the days and weeks go on, possibly a month you had mentioned, but we're going to get back to that live broadcast and we'll continue this legal analysis as the trial goes on. All right. I've ended the stream. I don't know if it ended. We're still